Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for sticking with me throughout my small hiatus from YouTube. I tried to focus most of my Magic time on preparing for a special tournament, so that's the reason. This Saturday, I participated in the Magic Online Champion Showcase, which is, for those who don't know, an 8-player tournament that you can qualify through a few avenues. You can qualify by being the Legacy Champion, the Modern Champion, the Pioneer Champion, and the Vintage Champion. And the process is kind of complicated. You need to first accumulate 40 Q points. That's like reasonable if you play like leagues and challenges and stuff. Then you need to top 8 a showcase, but that's very hard. It's like 200 or 300 people. The last chance, no pun intended, is going 5-0 in a last chance qualifier, like the days leading up to the actual showcase qualifier. And that's what I did. I qualified, I went 5-0 in Legacy. I qualified, I played a control deck, and I managed to top 1 that tournament and punch my ticket to the MOCS. If you care about my run through that Legacy tournament, I have it somewhere on the channel. So let's get into this 8-player tournament. This 8-player tournament is going to be 3 rounds of Vintage Cube, 3 rounds of Modern. Any player who 3-0s either format is automatically in the Grand Finals and is also qualified for the World Championship. So my goal was obviously to top 2 this tournament. That would be huge. I would be going to Las Vegas this fall and kind of continue my journey. My main motivation when I play Magic is always try and get to play more Magic, right? So if I play a tournament, I want to win enough matches so I can advance to the playoffs. If there's some kind of extra thing I can qualify for, I want to get to that point to qualify for more things. I want Magic the Gathering in my calendar, basically. That's like my main motivation. So preparing for this tournament is kind of strange. Super small metagame for Modern. Bunch of great players for Vintage Cube. So what I did was basically just familiarize myself with all of the archetypes in Cube so that I could draft my seat, so to speak, when the draft arrived. There's no worse feeling than, let's say, you can't play aggressive decks, or you can only play aggressive decks, and then you open a card that you're obviously losing a lot of equity by not picking, but if you pick it, you're not going to play it to a great enough standard, and yeah, it's just bad. Like, that's why you need a range, basically. You don't want to be like an aggro specialist, and then the best card in the pack by far is Mana Drain. Or you don't want to only be able to play control, and then the best card in the pack is obviously, I don't know, Parallax Wave or something. So I think I did a good job of that. There's always some changes to the cube. Some cards go out that the way I approach cube is always like I try and see this whole puzzle of how can I get there, so to speak. And if I don't know the deck list of the cube, like exactly what they removed and added, my picture, it gets a bit grained, right? So that's very important when you're working on perfecting your craft in cube. So let's just get into the draft. So I first picked the worst card I first picked in months. I first picked Flame Slash this draft, which is not how you want to start your journey when you're competing for stakes like this. I had a Flame Slash and an Undercity Sewers, the black-blue Surveil land as my choice. And I took the Flame Slash. Thankfully, I was then shipped a, let's see, I was shipped a Ragavan, so I kind of felt good about that decision. Then I got a Swords to Plowshares, also felt good. And then I had the choice between Steam Vents and Unholy Heat. And I ended up taking Steam Vents, which should be, it's here in my sideboard. The reason why I did that was kind of hedging for 2 things. One thing, just playing main blue-red, splashing the plow. That was one thing. The other thing is, I really enjoy picking up like blue fixing when I can, because Time Walk and Ancestral Recall are so insane. So I try and set myself up for the splashes most of the time. Some of those splashes are also true for other colors, like white is basically 4 Theolingas. That's like the best card to splash for. Sometimes it's Fractured Identity in like, slower decks. For green, it's like Minsk and Boo Oko. For black, it can be something like Tutors if you have some kind of combo deck going on. So having an idea of which card are worth splashing for and which doors do I keep open by drafting fixing is important. However, this draft, I set the Unholy Heat, and that's the reason, one of the reasons at least, that red got a bit more contested in the draft. I saw Sam Rolfe pick it up, and even though I think he just used it in his sideboard, the point is he kind of got the idea the red was open, and as a result, I ended up with a Boros deck instead of like a red deck splash white, um, which definitely hurt me a little bit. I was lucky to get 14th pick Plateau in the first booster, which is like I was super stoked about that because at that point it was very, very questionable if I could end up play like mono red splash Source of Plowshares. Um, then I get some quality cards like Smuggler's Copter, like Leydia, like Fourth Eolingas, like Reprieve, and all of a sudden I have what looks to be a playable deck. So what's important to note is this deck is like, I would say this is like a 2-1 deck. This can do a lot of damage. This can kill opponents quickly before they kind of recover. This can steal games. But the context of this draft was, I believe the whole power 9 was opened. So if I have 0 power pieces, but I'm playing against an average of like 1.5 power piece, I'm generally in trouble. So when I saw the deck lists, that's what I realized, and it was just so tough. I was lucky to win round 1 by having an absurd nut draw. On the draw game 2, I have turn 1, Ancient Tomb Smuggler's Copter. Turn 2, fetch my Plateau, play Selfless Spirit, through the Copter attack. Then the following turn, because I fetched the Plateau from my white source, that is also accidentally a red source. So I go Mountain, I draw the Rampaging Raptor, so I can now attack for 7 with Raptor and Smuggler's Copter, accrued with the Spirit once more. And then the turn after that, I played Lelia, like for lethal. Like, that draw was just absurd. It really goes to show how important fixing is, because the Plateau let me play a white drop out early, but also have double red on time. Really, really brutal. And I played against a like double MOCS, Mystical Tutor, Balance, Upheaval, awesome Bant deck that even had a great sideboard against me, like True Name Nemesis, Scavenging Ooze. My opponent even played those 2 cards in that game, actually, and like Shadow Spear. It was, I felt very, very lucky. But that's like the name of the game here. We're playing Vintage Cube, and we're only playing 3 rounds, so anything can happen, right? I do get smoked round 2 and 3. Like, I just have no chance. I lose to, I think this match was even on coverage. I lose to Flash Worldspine Worm, 1 match. Then the next match I lose to Black Lotus Grave Titan while I'm stalling on 2 lands. It's just, that experience was just over before it started. Like, I didn't have any great games there, unfortunately. But I guess my deck is not looking to have great games. My deck is looking to punish the opponent, and unfortunately, I got punished for the most part. So, quick status. After 3 rounds of Vintage Cube, I'm 1-2. So at this point, I need to 3-0 Modern, or the Dream for Worlds is dead, and I'm playing for like placements when it comes to cash. So yeah, I mean, I like this deck. I drafted my seat. I just played against better decks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It was pretty awesome. Like, I love playing Cube, and this was no exception. I was in good spirits despite the beatdown. So let's jump over to the modern portion. So, quick history lesson here. 10 years ago, I was a great modern player. Pros would message me what to play in this tournament, what to play in that tournament. I was on top of the world. I knew all decks. I knew how they played against each other. I had a very good idea of the format. That is definitely not the case anymore. I switched my priorities from paper Magic to online play, and online, you can basically play what you love the most, where in paper, you play what the tournament organizer tells you to play, right? So I haven't played Modern for a few years. Last time I played it was a few years ago, where I played a lot of Creativity. I love that deck. But yeah, so much has happened ever since. So I knew I needed to play a somewhat simple deck to give myself the chance to win games versus the best in the world. And Prowess was kind of cool. In my preparation, I played a lot of red-green. Um, the Tarmogoyf and Questing Druid, but I kind of wanted to give the blue a shot, and I wanted some counter spells. So expressive iteration plus counter spells, and we got this sweet 2-drop in Slick Shot Show Off, which basically made it so I wouldn't miss Tarmogoyf, because what I wanted was like a critical mass of creatures. I wanted to play 16, and that was just the easy answer. So yeah, I play Prowess here. The way I built the mana base was I wanted to play Spire Bluff Canal. That card is, can make the difference when it comes to life total. So I really like that card in a deck that's trying to sometimes, chain preordains or whatever. And I think I did a reasonable job fitting that card in the deck, while still being able to cast my spells. I think this list may be wrong. I think I played one more fetch. Let's see, 3/3. Yeah. So I played it like this. I played 2 Spire Bluff Canals, 3 Steam Mints, couple of basics, pretty standard stuff, and the Stumping Ground in the main deck. I've seen people play it in the sideboard, but I don't want to spend the sideboard slot on a land in this deck. The 16 creatures are awesome. We have some redundancy here with the 8 Prowess creatures. The 8 Prowess creatures are, they're not amazing, but they do their job, and the triple 1-drop start is like the ideal for this deck. Also, sometimes Soulscar Mage in combination with burn spells can kind of shrink your opponent's creatures, which is useful for sure. There's a lot of sequencing about the 1-drop creatures, but I think it all comes down to what are we playing against? Do we expect our 1-drop to survive or not? When you have to choose between haste and non-haste, especially. Also, there's some Orcish Bowmaster's concern with Channeler, which is not fun, but sometimes you just got to bite the sour apple and hope for the best, because Channeler is going to be the best 1-drop very, very often. This deck plays some burn spells, the obvious lightning bolts, but we also play Lava Dart. Lava Dart is a card that, if your opponent plays 1 toughness creatures, it's exceptionally good. If they don't, then this becomes like basically a pump spell for your prowess guys. So yeah, Lava Dart can kill quickly, 2 spells in 1, and yeah, just a cool reprint into Modern a few years ago. Then I play a lot of Unholy Heats, which is basically the strategy that I also like to use in Cube, is when you have a lot of small creatures, it's good to have removal for, big creatures because the worst thing that can happen is like you have a Soulscar and a Swift Spear, but you pass the turn, you can't attack. So I want to play cards that let me keep attacking. There's also some math on this card, like basic math, like killing stuff like Yawgmoth in the metagame is a concern, killing stuff like Primeval Titan, and even killing a card like Archon of Cruelty is not like that bad, even though it's not ideal if that card enters the battlefield. As I said, we like the preordains on the baubles. That's basically just churning. There's always the sequencing around baubles where sometimes if you have a fetch and a non-fetch, you can kind of get a little bit of selection out of the bauble. Most of the time we fire it off, especially in black matchups because of Bowmaster. Expressive Iteration is awesome, especially with 0 drops in the deck. So sometimes you can even play like turn 2 iteration and you hit a bauble and everything's perfect, but mainly we're looking to play this in the mid game to just keep the fuel running and hopefully kill our opponent in short order. Then I have a couple of Underworld Breach, which is a card that shines when the game goes longer, where the opponent goes Fatal Push your creature, Lightning Bolt your creature, whatever, stuff like that, and you have a somewhat chunky yard, then this becomes a must counter and can just win the game. If you play 1 copy, that's also fine. I play 2 copies. I predicted some grindy matches. Yeah, that card is pretty cool. Can win out of nowhere. And then I play 1 copy of Mutagenic Growth, which is something I want to talk a little bit about. So Mutagenic Growth is a card that once your opponent knows about it, I don't appreciate it in large numbers. At that point, it's like a racing card against stuff like, Amulet stuff. Non-interactive decks that you just want to beat against. But against like interactive decks, I think 1 is the right copy. It's kind of funny. I think the other prowess player came to the same conclusion, that just having this 1 Mutagenic Growth in an open decklist environment will have value. We don't want to overload on that effect. Sideboard, I played a couple of Delays, which is mainly to counter stuff like Gates Bells and Primeval Titan, and I guess unforeseen crap. Then I have 2 copies of Spell Pierce, good against Control, good against the One Ring. I figured those would be, good against Cascade. one more Unholy Heat for, chunky creatures. Pick your poison. That card does a lot. That card is mainly good against the Zoo decks of the format, with the Leyline, with the Scion, but it's also good against the One Ring. It's good against Ursa Saga. It's good against Amulet. It's good against any artifact strategies like Synthesizer, stuff like that. 2 Curse Totems because I predicted Yawgmoth in the metagame. I guess my other compatriot who played Prowess also had an idea how to attack that matchup. We'll get to that in a bit. And then I played 3 Copies of Format Script because I just suspected at least 2 Graveyard decks. I was hoping for 3, and I didn't do too well on that prediction. Giganta's the companion will come up sometimes if you get like Path or Feel of Ruined or stuff like that, but not the card that comes into play the most. I didn't use it these 3 rounds, but yeah, I mean it can happen for sure. So in the modern portion, in the first round, I played against Mono White Midrange, which was my mind was kind of blown when I saw this deck. So I just figured, okay, there's a Martyr deck that's looking to set up a Biding Grace, keep returning the Martyr, and kind of set up a lock. So I just want to be as fast as possible, especially because we have like a couple temporary lockdowns, a couple of Wraths, even One Ring, more Wraths, and lockdown in the sideboard. Like this matchup seemed like a nightmare. I was lucky to run Benny over 2 games in a row. I even misclick in the second game where I have lethal, but I passed the turn through a Ranger of Eos activation. I just don't respond with the last lightning bolt. I give my opponent a shot, but thankfully Benny fetches. Thankfully for me, I guess Benny fetches end of turn, goes to 3, and then I can lightning bolt him on his upkeep, and that's all she wrote. Like, that was not my proudest moment. So round 2, I believe I play against Yawgmoth out of Pintu. Pintu just demolished me. Really, I didn't have much of a chance. I tried to use the strategy like keep up the pressure, bolt the bird, don't lose to Bowmasters, but Burstin Yawgmoth showed up, and I believe the nail in the coffin was Court of Calling for Sheldred. At the sideboard, I don't even think we got. Yeah, oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm sitting on 1 land, and I have to make some bad decisions. I can either upkeep some burn spell to dig for the land, or I can hope to spike it on my draw step, and in the end, it just doesn't pay off, and I lose that match, which essentially eliminated me from the tournament. In the last round, I'm playing for, I believe, 500 or 1K extra. I play against Sam Rolfe. At this time, Sam was already 3-0'd the cube, so he's qualified. I can't say if that plays into his motivation to beat me, but I managed to run him over in 2 out of 3 games, which is like the only way I can win, basically, aside from having a timely pierce for the One Ring or a delay for the Titan, I guess. I was lucky to run Sam over for a 2-1 finish in Modern. Can't really complain about that, right? So I ended up winning 6K, which is a great chunk of cash that lets me play more Magic, basically. So yeah, great experience overall. Let's just quickly go through the rest of the metagame here. We have the eventual winner, Stefan Schutz, Mental Misstep. Stefan 0-3 Modern, but came back strong. Like, he may have lost round 1, 2, and 3, but he never lost faith, and he took it all down. $20,000 in the pocket and a trip to a world championship. So big congrats. Stefan is an awesome competitor, and I'm really happy for him. Took it down with Yawgmoth, main day Fulminator Mage, came in clutch in the finals. What else do we have here? We have the black deck that looked pretty cool, like the rack and just quality cards. Some let's call it blink effects with grief. I'm not sure how Enoch Paniger did. Maybe he 0-3'd actually. But, cool deck to bring to a high-stakes tournament. I really like that. Then we have JMM, who was always on, also on Prowess. He chose another path here. Lots of Stern Scolding in the sideboard. And I believe, yeah, even 4 Unholy Heats in the main deck, like very unusual. I had 3. I thought that would be like the absolute most. And then his creature suite was Ragavan, and only 3 Swift Spears. So he cut down on some creatures, I believe, down to 14 creatures. I was at 16 in order to fit main deck Spell Pierce. Only 3 Preordain. So a lot of like shaving in order to fit Spell Pierce, I guess. And let's see, what are we missing here? Oh yeah, we have the legend Duke 12. Duke 12. He signed up with Jund in the metagame. That was just like, it seems like a good choice. If you're confident, you can play better than who's in front of you. Playing good decks like this, lots of answers. Nazis, Inquisition, Heat, Fatal Push, Bowmasters like Molten Collapse, and just solid finishers like Tarmogoyf and Fable, not to mention Ursa Saga, of course. Yeah, it seems like a decent choice. And then I don't think I'm missing anyone, so let's see. No, I think that covers the whole metagame. So all in all, I had a very, very cool time at the MOCS. A friend of mine said, yeah, it's normal to feel like hungover post MOCS, but that's not the case for me. Like, I just want to go again. So thankfully, I'm qualified for the Legacy Showcase this summer. I immediately top 8'd in the first showcase challenge, so I have that on the books. But I need to top 1 a 30-player fully stacked tournament in order to get back. But I'm gonna give it a go, and I think that's just the lesson for today. Is just if you set goals, but you're ready for both outcomes, because then nobody can stop you, right? Because you can have a goal, but that doesn't mean your world has to collapse if you don't make that goal, right? So having something to look forward to and give yourself a shot to participate in, I think that's where you want to be. But you also want to stay resilient to the inevitable losses of Magic, because any round, remember, any round of Magic consists of 50% losers, and that percentage is too high to get upset about. So that's the name of the game we signed up for, and we just give ourselves the best chance, and then the chips will fall. I think that's gonna cut it for today. This is like one take going through the MOCS the best I could. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for sticking with me, as I said in the beginning, throughout my break, and I'll see you next time for some more sweet Magic. Bye, guys.